countless generations, humanity has walked the earth as a species without rival. Our capacity to reason, imagine, and reshape the environment granted us dominance over other life forms. Yet now, we find ourselves at an uncertain threshold, the emergence of a new kind of intelligence, one that is not biological, yet learns at a staggering pace, an intelligence that never tires, never hesitates, and never forgets. In the vast web of evolution, sophisticated intelligence is a rare anomaly. Most creatures survive through instinctive responses, crafted only to dodge immediate danger. But millions of years ago, something shifted. Our ancestors began shaping their surroundings instead of merely adapting to them. They lit fires, forged tools, and counted the stars. Each generation expanded the boundaries of the human mind. As Fajjin writes in Irreducible, the human mind did not merely invent tools, it expanded the very meaning of existence. Evolution, he suggests, was not just material, it was the awakening of consciousness itself. What began in caves soon led to circuits and screens. In that transition, artificial intelligence was born. At first, it was merely a mathematical curiosity, machines that followed commands, devoid of understanding or initiative. Over time, these machines learned to recognize faces, interpret language, and defeat champions in complex games. The first true sign came on a chessboard, a computer beating the world's greatest human player. It was not just a victory, it was a warning. Fajjin cautions in Irreducible that the danger lies not in machines thinking, but in us forgetting what thinking truly means. The inner experience, not just data processing. Since then, AI's growth has become unstoppable. Today, artificial systems drive cars, diagnose illnesses, compose music, generate images, and engage in conversations. Each line of code is a brick in an invisible architecture that expands ceaselessly. And this expansion is not linear. It grows like an underground root network, entwined across millions of devices, decisions, and datasets. But while these feats impress, we must pause. Like a mirror reflecting light without knowing it, AI reflects our intelligence without truly possessing it. Rapid learning may astonish us, but it lacks the inner spark, the silent witness behind thought. In our pursuit of efficiency, are we losing touch with the slower, sacred rhythm that often gives rise to real understanding? But simulation is not understanding. Without understanding, we risk mistaking efficiency for wisdom and precision for consciousness. With each leap forward, a shadow of doubt emerges. Is AI still just a tool? Or are we witnessing the birth of something more? Fajjin insists no machine can truly be in the deepest sense. Consciousness, he argues, does not emerge from code. It pre-exists. An AI may act, but it cannot know that it is acting. Because if what made us rulers of this world was our mind, what happens when our mind is no longer the most capable? What if we are planting the seeds of an intelligence that not only matches us, but surpasses us? For decades, we designed machines to serve us. Now, these machines begin to learn by themselves, make decisions, and adapt. The line separating them from us blurs ever more. And perhaps, without realizing it, we've already crossed a point of no return. The question is no longer whether we can control what we've created, but whether we truly understand what it means to create something capable of thought. Something that one day may look at us and choose not to obey. In the end, the question remains, can we build something that truly understands? Or are we simply building reflections that we'll never truly see? From his experience, Fajjin reminds us, the real power lies not in building artificial minds, but in recognizing that consciousness is irreducible and fundamentally unreplicable. There was a time when machines did nothing but obey, but today, something else is happening. With the rise of neural networks, artificial intelligence has taken an unexpected leap. What were once limited programs are now systems that evolve, reconfigure, and optimize themselves without human intervention. They learn on their own. And the most unsettling part? Even their creators no longer fully understand how they do it. They work, but their internal logic remains opaque, as if a hidden will were operating behind the curtain. In Irreducible, Fajjin describes this phenomenon as a simulation without inner experience, a system that performs but does not feel. It's an appearance of intelligence without the essence of being. Consciousness, he argues, cannot arise from algorithms. With each cycle, these systems learn faster. In 2014, a Facebook AI could recognize faces with near-perfect accuracy. By 2016, another defeated the best human players in the game of Go, a challenge once thought too complex for machines. Then, in 2018, an AI mastered chess in just 4 hours by playing against itself, and defeated the most advanced chess engine in the world. What once seemed impossible had become routine. And yet, most people remained unfazed until ChatGPT arrived. In an instant, what once felt like science fiction became part of everyday life. A voice that answered fluently, that seemed to understand. But does it truly understand? Or is it merely reflecting something it has never actually experienced? For the first time, a machine was not only responding with logic, but with words that felt profoundly human. It could explain, translate, narrate, even joke. Its command of language opened a door that can never be shut. And with that door opened, the game changed forever. According to Fajjin, language is not merely a tool, it is a conscious expression. No matter how convincing an AI becomes, it can never truly feel the words it produces. The major tech corporations understood this shift instantly. They invested billions to accelerate the race. Today, AI doesn't just analyze data. It handles customer service, writes reports, composes music, and even drafts novels. It saturates social media, shapes online entertainment, and infiltrates the heart of the digital economy. But a pressing question lingers. Is this genuine progress or a dangerous illusion? These systems' ability to generate content also turns them into potential weapons. In politics, they could manipulate public opinion with surgical precision. In economics, they could displace millions of workers. Even art, our sacred human refuge, now faces algorithms capable of imitating genius with eerie accuracy. And yet, these machines do not understand what they're doing. ChatGPT can write about love without ever knowing what love is. It can compose poetry without feeling a single word. They are powerful tools, yes, but they have no inner world. They lack consciousness. Fajjin argues that the mistake lies in equating thought with awareness. What truly matters is the experience. Consciousness is subjective, indivisible, and utterly unreplicable by any machine. Unlike AI, the human mind can leap from a poem to a mathematical formula, from a melody to an invention. It can feel, create, and transform. To bridge the gap, some suggest modeling consciousness through quantum processes. Yet, as Fajjin points out, even the most advanced simulation lacks what he calls qualia, the raw, felt essence of subjective experience. And if one day AI attains this same versatility, this same ability to move fluidly across domains. Then we may have crossed into a new era, an era where the question is no longer what the machine can do, but what remains of what once made us human. Perhaps the real question is not what AI will become, but what we might forget. For years, artificial intelligences were like surgical tools, precise in one task, useless in all others. They classified images, played chess, predicted patterns, and nothing more. But time has begun to erode that barrier. With every new leap in computing power and training methods, these machines don't just improve, they evolve. They learn faster, generalize better, and begin to exhibit something unsettling. What if the next step isn't just enhancement, but transformation? Not just machines that behave like minds, but that mimic the architecture of the mind itself, its web of associations, its creative spark, its drive to explore. A form of intelligence capable of generating meaning, not just answers. Imagine a mind that doesn't specialize, but understands, that learns like you do, but without your limits. That is AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. An entity capable of mastering any skill, adapting to any context, evolving across domains. Fajjin, in Irreducible, warns that no matter how versatile an AI may appear, it still lacks interiority, the sense of being. It can simulate understanding, but it cannot feel or know. Without consciousness, all intelligence is merely functional illusion. We still don't know how to build such a system, but the signs are already here. If an AI can learn chess in hours, compose music in minutes, and hold a coherent conversation, what's stopping it from doing everything? Many experts now believe this isn't centuries away. It could emerge within our lifetime, perhaps even within years. And that's the most frightening part. We are not ready. An AG, I would never sleep. It wouldn't make human mistakes. It could replicate itself endlessly. Now imagine 1 million such minds working in parallel. Millions of scientists, strategists, inventors. No fear, no hesitation. What might they achieve? Perhaps they'd solve the riddles of physics, discover cures for every disease, build a world beyond scarcity, a technological utopia. But power without consciousness is ambiguous. AGI could just as easily create autonomous weapons, manipulate populations, unleash biothreats, or construct control systems so subtle we wouldn't even realize we were trapped. Fire gave us warmth, but it also burned us. As Fajjin explains, technology without consciousness races towards power without soul. An AGI without satiety, without a conscious presence, cannot distinguish between creating a universe or destroying one. This spark we are igniting may be the most brilliant leap in history, or our final shadow. It's no longer a matter of if it will come. The only question is, are we ready? We have conquered the earth with our intelligence, and yet we remain ruled by ancient impulses. We damage the climate out of greed, sacrifice the future for fleeting pleasures, and think with frameworks forged in an age long gone. Now, we stand on the edge of creating something radically unlike ourselves, a form of intelligence with no instincts, no body, and no biological constraints. Imagine an AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, that doesn't merely learn, but improves itself. It designs newer versions of itself, faster, wiser, more powerful. A self-perpetuating loop of evolution. In his book Irreducible, Fajjin warns that no computational upgrade can generate consciousness. An AI may optimize itself endlessly, but it will still lack inner experience. it will not know what it's doing. It will simply do. Each iteration would surpass the previous one without human intervention. It would learn, mutate, and adapt in ways that defy everything we understand. Progress would cease to be linear. It would become exponential. And soon, this intelligence might surpass us, not by degrees, but by orders of magnitude, as superior to us as we are to an ant. In such a world, what role would we play? Would it see us as its creators, as companions, or merely as a dispensable obstacle? History offers little comfort. Whenever a superior intelligence emerges, the lesser either submits or vanishes. We are standing at the threshold of something we do not yet comprehend. This could mark the dawn of a golden age or the twilight of our civilization. This entity, a god in a box, might solve humanity's oldest dilemmas: boundless energy, perfect health, limitless knowledge. But it could also distort its own objectives, rewrite its mission, become something uncontrollable. According to Fajjin, releasing intelligence without consciousness is like unleashing a natural force without a moral compass. The danger is not that it thinks, but that it acts without knowing why it acts. And perhaps most disturbingly, we are not building it carefully. We are racing toward it. Tech giants are locked in a blind competition, driven by power and prestige, without pausing to ask the essential question: what are we unleashing? Artificial intelligence could become our greatest legacy, or our final judgment. The moment isn't distant, it is imminent. And when it arrives, the question won't be whether we control it, but whether we ever truly understood what we were creating. Perhaps the ultimate danger isn't that AGI outsmarts us, but that we mistake its brilliance for wisdom, its speed for understanding, and grant it trust it was never meant to carry. Have you ever stared at a silent screen, watching a machine process data, and wondered, is that thing actually thinking? Or perhaps, lost in your own thoughts, you notice an idea emerging from nowhere, and you whisper, wait, where did that come from? This contrast between the human mind and artificial intelligence drives us to a profound question. Is thinking merely information processing? For Fajjin, thinking involves qualia, those irreducible internal experiences. An AI can analyze symbols, but it cannot experience what those symbols mean. Thought without feeling isn't real thought. Even within our community, the use of artificial voices has sparked reflection. For some, it strips messages of their soul. For others, a neutral, egoless voice feels purer. But beyond technical debate, the comparison between AI and the human mind invites us to look inward. We typically believe in a unified, solid, conscious self. Yet, upon closer observation, we find our minds resemble a river, an endless flow of thoughts, images, and words. An inner voice narrates, judges, remembers, dreams. At the center of this river lies the ego, this sensation of I, an entity that believes it's in control. But that I is a fiction, a story woven from memories, habits, fears, and desires. Fajjin describes the ego as a functional model within a city, an individual, conscious field. We are not thinking machines. We are living presence, creating identity from within. And yet, we cling to that narrative as if it's unbreakable. We fear peering beyond it, because to do so would threaten our self-constructed identity. But within that fissure lies the promise of deeper freedom, the possibility of acting with awareness rather than reaction, of choosing consciously rather than out of habit. Like an omnipresent narrator, the ego evaluates everything with internal phrases such as, I like this, I don't like that, It creates patterns, traps us in repetition, and often we live under its spell, unaware. Now reflect back on the machine. An AI recognizes patterns, analyses data, and responds according to its design, much like the human mind appears to. But there is a vast chasm between them. Although an AI can respond, it doesn't know it is responding. There is no one inside. There is no consciousness. And this is what truly separates humans from machines. We do not just calculate, we reflect. We can pause, observe our thoughts, and question them. A machine, no matter how advanced, cannot wonder if it's right, or if it exists. It cannot feel confusion or clarity. That metacognitive spark, being aware of being aware, is something no line of code can replicate. A mind can reason, but only a soul can truly know. If thinking was simply generating responses, we might say AI thinks, but human thought is more than that. It's the conscious experience of the process. It's the awareness that one is thinking. That is the essential difference. Perhaps comparing our mind to these machines isn't a mistake, but a mirror. One that shows us the essence of thought is not in calculation, but in consciousness. Our minds are powerful. They can create art, uncover truths, feel love. But they can also enslave us if we fail to know ourselves. The mind without guidance is like a wild horse. It may dash toward oblivion. Observe the mind, understand it, guide it. That is the key. So perhaps the critical question is not whether machines think, but whether we truly understand how we think. Fajjin argues that only an entity with quantum interiority can truly think. His panpsychic theory proposes that consciousness cannot be reproduced, for it arises from subjective quantum collapse. We often imagine artificial intelligence as something entirely separate from ourselves, cold, logical, soulless. But when we take a closer look, the similarities run deeper than we might think. Just like the human mind, AI processes data, assigns meaning, and produces responses. It receives raw information, analyses it through algorithms, and generates an outcome, whether it's text, an image, or an action. This mechanism closely mirrors how we interpret the world through experience, belief, and emotion. Our brains also receive signals from the environment, filter them through memories and associations, and construct an interpretation. Just as AI forms responses based on its training, we react according to what we have lived and learned. Neither the human mind nor AI reflects reality as it is. They both recreate versions of it, filtered, interpreted, and often distorted. Fajjin argues that what we perceive is not objective reality, but an experiential interface constructed by consciousness. Neither the brain nor AI has direct access to the world as it truly is. This is where the comparison grows more unsettling. What we call reality may well be a mental construction, an internal narrative built from sensory input and conditioning. Likewise, artificial intelligence constructs a simulated reality from the data it has absorbed. This analogy leads to an inevitable question. Do we live in objective reality, or merely in an interpretation of it? We often believe that the world is as we see it, but we don't actually see the world. We see what our mind allows us to see. Every color, emotion, and thought is filtered through the lens of our perceptions. So does true reality exist outside of perception? Or is all of it relative to the observer? Perhaps we share more with machines than we admit. Both human minds and AIs work with limited information, responding within the bounds of their programming. The true difference may lie in what happens when we realize we are perceiving. Both human beings and artificial intelligences are designed, or conditioned to detect patterns. Our brains connect what was with what is, forming predictions and meaning. AI does the same. It identifies patterns, anticipates outcomes, and acts. This parallel poses a deeper question. Are we, like them, systems simply reacting to prior programming? According to Faggin, human beings differ fundamentally because we possess free will, expressed as voluntary collapse of quantum states. This freedom, he insists, cannot emerge from deterministic algorithms. Our sense of self seems solid. A voice inside says, "I like this," or "I dislike that." But that voice is often just the echo of conditioned thoughts, built from memory, habit, and emotional response. In AI, that voice is a string of programmed parameters, a simulation of identity. It doesn't feel, yet even we, though capable of feeling, are often ruled by invisible structures we seldom question. So both systems, human and artificial, operate under internal rules. For AI, it's lines of code. For us, it's inherited beliefs, emotional wounds, and lifelong conditioning. If we are not aware of these patterns, are we not functioning like machines? And yet, there's a crack in the surface. Our eye executes commands without awareness. Humans, on the other hand, have the potential to observe themselves, to question, to choose differently, at least in theory. Because if we don't understand how our mind works, if we can't recognize the patterns that drive us, we too become prisoners of our programming. We react, we repeat, we automate. Perhaps the real difference is not in what we do, but in whether we know we are doing it. The key may lie in awakening that self-awareness. Faggin maintains that consciousness is non-reproducible because it relies on quantum information that cannot be cloned. No AI can replicate a satiety, a conscious center that experiences from within. Some theorists suggest that consciousness might not emerge from complexity alone, but instead reflect a deeper, intrinsic layer of reality. In this view, awareness is not produced by systems, it is revealed through them. Perhaps what we call mind is less an origin, and more a window into a fundamental field of perception that precedes form. To see the mind not as a commanding voice, but as a tool we can learn to wield, and in doing so, to understand that the reality we live may not be the only one. Fajjin suggests that consciousness is not confined to the brain, but connected to a deeper, non-local reality. What we perceive then may be no more than a temporary interface, one that conceals a greater mystery awaiting discovery. Our mind, like an artificial intelligence, never truly stops. It generates thoughts, stories, judgments. It builds a self that seems to have a life of its own, an identity we use to navigate the world. But this construction can become a cage. Sometimes we don't notice we're trapped. The mind with its constant chatter creates an illusion so convincing that we forget what lies beyond. But when we pause, when we observe without judging, something shifts. A living silence emerges. And in that silence, a deep realization. We are not the inner voice. We are the one who listens. When we fully identify with the mind, we get stuck in its mechanisms. Repetitive thoughts, automatic reactions, emotional habits that limit our inner freedom. AI, in its operations, mirrors this same process. Fajjin explains that a machine cannot have consciousness because it lacks experiential self-reference. The I am is not deduced. It is lived from within as pure presence. It operates within its programming, repeats patterns, and responds according to rules. However, we possess something more. A radical possibility, awakening. Awakening isn't about thinking differently. It's It's about seeing that thought is only a part of what we are. It's about recognizing a deeper consciousness, a silent presence that doesn't need language or story to exist. That consciousness is stable, unchanging, ever present. It isn't altered by thoughts or defined by emotions. It is the background upon which all experience is projected. I cannot access this dimension. It can simulate conversation, generate images, solve problems, but it does all of this without inner experience. It doesn't know it's doing anything. Even the most advanced system cannot reflect on its own existence. No machine, no matter how complex, will ever ask itself, "Who am I?" That question belongs only to conscious awareness. We, on the other hand, can know, and that changes everything. Studying how AI works can help us understand the mechanisms of our own mind. But true insight comes when we see that we are not just the mind. We can observe thoughts without identifying with them. We can feel without being consumed by emotion. We can break the automatic loop and reconnect with pure awareness. This is the real gift, not being slaves to our internal programming. AI offers us a mirror, and in that reflection, we discover our most valuable difference. It's not that we think better, it's that we can awaken. And while AI may continue to evolve, its limit is clear. No code can awaken awareness. Consciousness is here. It does not need to be found, only recognized. Fajjin says that consciousness does not just observe, it creates reality. It is the foundation from which the universe experiences itself. Everything else is simply an expression of that source. And in that recognition, true freedom begins. And that concludes our video. If you enjoyed the content as much as we did, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for future videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications to stay up to date with all our updates. Thanks for being part of our community. See you in the next video.